It's amazing the difference that light makes. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Good morning, Mike Cushman, and good morning everybody else. So it is 15 days to Christmas. So welcome to Talking Niagara, our live morning talk show for you, the people of Niagara. It is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. So there we go. How's life been going then, Dave? Were you doing the kettles? Well. Were you doing the kettles yesterday?
No, I did the kettles 6 days in a row last week. And but this week I'm going to do them. I didn't do them Monday or Tuesday. I'm doing them today and tomorrow, and possibly Saturday.
So I thought of you because I had to go to what do you call them? Shoppers Drug Mart yesterday. The downtown post office in St. Catharines was closed because of the fire. They're basically complaining because of the air quality, which, to be quite honest, on Tuesday was not that bad. On Monday, I can see it may well have been very bad, but on Tuesday, I would have thought in a normal building you wouldn't smell it. You could smell it going past the building, but anyway, post office closed. We went to Shoppers, and and there not only was the post office open, but there was a person with collecting on the kettles.
Yep.
They're
all over the place.
Yeah, they seem to be doing quite well. Large number of 5s and 10s in there.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes you get I've seen 100. I've seen people put $100 bills in, but it's not uncommon to see people put 20s in there.
Yeah,
no, a couple of 20s too, but $5 is the most common.
I would have thought that in this hard times that coins would have been more the norm.
No, I found that there's more coins this year than I remember in other years.
Yeah.
I find more people are putting coins in than was on other years. There was a time you get the odd person putting whatever leftover change they had in there.
Yeah.
But I see that happening more and more coins going in than I have in previous years. The most common donation is a $5 bill, though.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have one on me.
Yeah, did they not have the tap there?
I don't recall seeing one.
But yeah, most people miss it. I can't see how they miss it, but most people miss it. They have a little thing attached to the tower there that's a tap. Now I'm pretty sure, like that's what they do in Niagara Falls. I'm pretty sure they do that there too.
Oh, I'm
sure they $10 and $20 tap.
I didn't see it. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, most people walk by it, they don't see it. They don't see it for years, and then we've had it on the Salvation Army's had it on for I think four years anyway, and then I get this. Oh my God, I never saw that tap. I never knew that. Some people come by and tells me, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash." They tell me, and I says, "Well, we have tap," and they look right at it. I didn't even notice it. It's right there. They don't even notice.
Okay. No, I wasn't even looking for it. I wasn't about to make a donation anyway, not yesterday. But it might have probably come to your place, but I didn't know where you were. You were probably at Staples, yeah?
We're at the Celian in town here is at Staples.
Oh. Yeah.
They are also not Staples. Sorry me. They're at Sobeys. They're at the Zares.
Yeah,
they're at the liquor store up on Oakwood Drive there, where the Walmart Plaza is there. They're in that liquor store there. Also Metro across from the Bain Center. I've done duty in Metro, Zares, and Sobe so far.
Yep.
In right about now, Costco should open up.
Yeah, when I was saying I would follow you, that wasn't the truth. I would give it any one of them. You know that.
Yeah.
I just didn't see. I didn't see the tap, but I wasn't looking out for it, and I wasn't about to pay something on that particular day anyway. I was just busy with the work things. Had to be in and out quickly. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, Scrooge.
Thank you.
Bah humbug.
All right.
Bah humbug.
No, I know these guys do a lot for the community. All right.
Yeah, it's one of the best charities you're going to get.
That's one of the reasons why I talked about it. Why I talked to you about it anyway. All right, moving on. US doesn't want to terminate CUSMA, according to our ambassador, US ambassador, whose name is Hoekstra.
Hoekstra doesn't know what he's talking about. He never has done. He's one of the Trump sycophants that will do and bow down. Yes or 3 bags full, sir kind of guy. He is just the talking head of the administration. He has no soul of his own. He's given it over to the MAGA cult, and he will just say anything. You can't rely on what Hoekstra says at all. You can't rely on Trump and his negotiating team. Basically, Trump and his negotiating team has made it very clear that they're going to scare the crap out of everybody, demand certain things, and when you do come up with that, then they're going to demand more. So if you agree to something, then all of a sudden they're demand more. People are getting other negotiators are getting to understand that's the situation. Now, of course, Hoekstra has been very clear that he realizes that the United States, like that lobby group or semi-lobby group, whatever it was, approached the United States last week, told the president how wonderful he was for making the CUSMA agreement back in 2019 or whatever it was, or 2017, and what a great and superhero he was for doing that, and why he should do it all over again. So they're playing him like everybody else plays him, goes and like kind of prostrates themselves, tell him what a beloved leader he is, and then try to tell him to do exactly what he did before. We also know from the American administration that they are playing hardball with everybody, and they're using a maximum leverage to get whatever kind of deal they can. But it was very clear that CUSMA is hugely beneficial to the United States, and but they want their cake and eat it too. He wants to take automotive jobs out of Ontario and other places, and other manufacturing jobs, and steel, but at the same time not give back anything. That's really isn't going to work.
Well, at the end of the day, here's the thing. I understand it. I understand Trump playing hardball with other nations, right? But he is the one who negotiated CUSMA. Would expect that the North American trade agreements would stay in place.
He's at a situation now. Well, he's at a situation now where things are not looking too good in the American economy, despite what Fox says.
Yeah.
Even Fox every once in a while will say, "Oh, wait a minute, there's a problem here." But I tell you, I watched a CNN one and a Fox one talking about the same subject a few days ago. I think it was employment figures or something like that. I couldn't have listened to two more opposite reports on the same thing if my life depended on it. Because like Fox, it was a rosy picture of how great things we're having. And, we still have that Biden legacy that's dragging us down, but we really are coming along, and there's great jobs. Prices are coming down and blah, blah, blah. On the CNN one, no, the jobs report was dismal. Prices were going up, blah, 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 blah. So how is the American consumer of news going to kind of figure out what really is going on out there?
Yeah. And usually, as you say, with those sort of stories, if joblessness is going up and prices are going up, that's usually bad for the economy. Most people know that. It's basic economics. Right? It's not always true, but it's a good start point. Yeah.
Things are very unusual, and we see now too the tariffs. We see a whole pile of tariffs being repealed. Bananas, tomatoes, usually mostly foodstuffs, because and beef, and all manner of other things, these tariffs are now being pulled off. So these were the hardball tactics they used against Mexico and other producers of foods like Ecuador and other places of that kind, Argentina. And now they're pulling the pin on that because the administration sees the affordability crisis. Yeah. Affordability crisis was a Democratic hoax 2 weeks ago, but today it is a problem. Is changed. Yes, indeed, there is a an affordability crisis, and it was Biden's fault. And we inherited the affordability crisis. So the affordability crisis that was a Democrat hoax is now a problem, in a Democrat problem that was inherited by the Republican Party. See, they just keep changing their tune on it.
Trouble is, if we're looking at the polls, and I haven't looked for a week or so at the American polls, it's turning against Trump and the Republicans, because it's all, it's looking like green flags for the Dems in the House election next year.
It could. Remember though, the Dems have been very stupid and awkward in their own way.
Yeah,
they have the only reason why they have the advantage now is because the Republicans have been so inept at their what they're doing, and they're looking very much like puppets to the puppet master with no will of their own.
Yeah.
If the Republicans start to get a will of their own and defy their own beloved leader a few times, they might turn that back a bit. But the Dems haven't had any good ideas themselves for a very long time, and we don't know what they're like.
I don't deny any of what you said there, Dave. Absolutely correct. But sometimes it's the will of the people, whether there's a leader or not.
Whether it's the Dems or Republicans, the reasonable ones know that the CUSMA agreement is a very good thing.
Yeah.
When Canada is the number one trading partner of the United States, it was number one. Well, actually, Mexico is, but the number one trading partner or the number two trading partner, but the number one trading partner for industrial goods, the number one buyer of American cars, the number one trading partner of many states. Ontario itself is the number one trader of like 30 something states, and the second most for many more. There is real money to be made and real mutual prosperity. The zero-sum game the Trump government is playing will not work. It won't work well. And the resistance is going to pile up. So I think what you're going to find, if sooner or later the CUSMA thing will come back in, even if we have to wait for Trump's gone. The free trade thing between Canada, the US, and even Mexico is so beneficial to all countries, including the United States. Messing with that's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
And the sycophant that calls himself ambassador of Canada, he has to admit that.
As I said, I get mucking with other places where you don't have an equivalent of CUSMA deal, but where you've got a pre-existing deal that Trump himself negotiated, well, that's probably, and Trump actually even said it's the best deal they've ever had.
Yeah, the best deal of all time, ever. The best trade deal of all time.
Yeah, and okay, and when Trump is saying that, that means it's the best deal for the USA, right?
Well, that's what he said, and now he's saying, but that's one of the reasons why so much of CUSMA survived.
Yeah,
right now. But they still want the jobs for cars.
Yeah.
What they don't understand though is that Canada buys U.S. cars as well as U.S. buys Canada cars.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put a tariff on Canadian components coming into cars, then you can only think that the same thing's going to happen the other way around, and we're going to encourage people to build. They're already talking about Canada only build cars. Yeah. So that's what happened before auto pact.
Yeah.
Basically, you would build a Ford truck here all in Canada, and they would build it down there. Now you might be able to buy the Ford truck that comes from the States, but they'll buy whatever we make, sends it down there.
Lines like the Ford line in Oakville wouldn't just be making one vehicle. They'd be making trucks on Monday, sedans on Tuesday, SUVs on Wednesday, wouldn't they?
No. Once a car once a
No,
plant
in order
is set
to
up
manage a Canadian market, they would have to do something like that.
Oh, they would have to. No, you can't change out like that. So what you can do is you can build the engines and things like that that might be universal to many couple different models, but you have to have a devoted line to a particular kind of car. It's not worth it because you have to change the tooling.
Yeah,
and changing the tooling is a big deal.
I get that, but again, then you'd probably come up with 5 or 6 different lines, wouldn't you? In order to manage.
I would say that probably, yeah, you'd probably. I don't know, like Ford Motor Company, let's say, would have to come up with a sedan, a truck, and something else, maybe a smaller car or something. They would have to sort of narrow it down to 2 or 3 models.
A sedan, a truck, and an SUV.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, something like that.
Probably. Yeah. Although, yeah, you're right. Ford is one of the main players in the small car market as well.
And there you have it. Like Ford Motor Company said, we already take 80% of our content is U.S. in our cars.
Yeah.
And you're asking us to do the other 20%, which will cost us a lot more.
Yeah.
The American auto industry, the GM in particular, has put forward, you better stick with CUSMA or things we're going to have a lot of problems. And when we reported about that last week, where the different manufacturers came and they went to the Trump administration and did the old bow down thing. You are the most magnificent, beloved leader. You gave us CUSMA, which is wonderful. You're wonderful, the USMCA, and we want you to do that again. We don't want you to repeal it because you were a right and beloved leader the first time. It's ridiculous. They got to go through this prostating thing. But if you notice that the companies that use offshore materials like Costco, Yokohama Tire, and a bunch of other companies, when they went to the White House, they demanded their tariffs back. They demanded their tariffs. They've been eating the tariffs for too long, and they don't want to eat them anymore, and they want their tariff money back from the government. So they took a different stand. They didn't do the prostate thing. You are the beloved leader. They said we just want our stuff back and hurry up and do that.
Yeah.
So, but that will depend on the Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, for people like Costco, that's very vitally important because they've lost a lot of money with this.
Yeah, there's a whole list of companies came along with them,
and of course it hits Canada. If Costco buys, Costco corporate buys product that's distributed to all Costco stores, including Canada, right? Then the tariffs that the US applies impacts the Canadian market as well.
That's the problem because a lot of the stuff gets imported in the United States and the tariff gets put on it. And then we end up paying the tariff that the US is applied to the US. And I don't know how you separate that. Say you have a box of rice that comes from India or a bag of rice that comes from India and it goes sold through Costco. Then it comes into the North America market. It's tariff puts on it, and then it goes across the Canadian border. How do you remove the tariff off of it?
Yeah, you can't. And again, that's the same sort of thing with TVs built in Japan.
But yeah, it basically with that one you might be able to get away with it because you might be able to get devoted tanker shipment tankers to Vancouver, and we might be able to avoid the tariff that way.
Well, the Port of Vancouver,
that sets up the situation where a Japanese TV comes into Canada and it is cheaper than the one in the States because there's no tariff on it. I'm going to start a TV smuggling business.
Smuggle them to the US. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that sort of stuff, but again, I'd say the Port of Vancouver is not probably not what it was. I recall when I was in Vancouver, the port's it's half luxury yachts nowadays, not an industrial port.
Oh no, Vancouver's hugely industrial. That's a big problem with Vancouver Port. It's so big. When I was there were so many ships stacked high with containers.
Yeah.
The big problem with Vancouver is it's a very vibrant, huge port, and they only have discretion over about 1% of all the containers coming in. That's one of the big reasons why the U.S. claims that the cursory chemicals that are required to make fentanyl are coming through the Vancouver port, whether some of them are ending up in the States or others are ending up in Canada and then being processed into fentanyl. That's a real thing, and it wouldn't be just fentanyl making drugs. It would be just about like everything, because the Vancouver port is a porous one. They do not have the ability to check too many of the containers coming into the country. So I imagine that's a major smuggling port would be Vancouver.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get it. But again, I think Vancouver port. All I was trying to say, Dave, is the Port of Vancouver. I don't think is. It used to be a lot more powerful than it is today. And from my experience out there, there seems to be a lot more, rich people yachts. And the reason I say this is because I have experience with another one, the Port of Southampton, where my father worked for many, many years. There were two ports. There's the old port and the new port. And the new port is where all the containers go. But the old port today is basically fancy yacht territory. Right.
Oh, okay.
There was almost no, it's where the Titanic left. It's where the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth left. The ocean terminal there was actually so important to the south of England, and basically that's just fancy yacht territory nowadays.
That's probably where the old scow that took my relatives from there to here 300 years ago came from too.
Probably. Yeah, the ocean terminal in the old docks in Southampton. That's exactly where they go, right? Yeah, the container port's doing better than ever, but there's nothing else. It's only half the. It used to be half the what the port used to do. I'm just comparing my knowledge of what happened in Southampton with what I saw in Vancouver.
Well, the fact of the matter is we have limited ports here. The United States has excellent ports. The port of New York City is superb. It is there is a huge amount of traffic. Yeah. It is made for that's one of the reasons why it exploded and became more important than Philadelphia and Boston combined. But even Boston has port facilities, and of course that stuff will then end up coming across the border into Canada. LA too. LA is an enormous port, a huge amount of port stuff coming from Asia. And that a lot of that will make its way up here because the capacity of the port is so huge.
Yeah, again, ports have changed so much, and that's in Europe as well. Ports have changed so much over the years. Anyway, right. Country is like a strainer. You can only do so much to stop stuff. I used to work on the lake boats, saw lots of stuff smuggled, booze, drugs, alcohol, amongst other things. I bet, and probably so many opportunities there, John.
Yeah, right. I hope you made a lot of money.
Well, and you're pooling in so many ports that it's probably dead easy to actually arrange certain drop-offs at certain ports.
The trick is major imports is the big thing. And when you're talking about precursor drugs like for fentanyl or something, it doesn't take much of those precursor drugs to make fentanyl, which is a real problem because it's not like big bulk like cocaine or something like that's already refined. These are precursor chemicals that are also used in other drug manufacturing, and they're hard to identify. Most of it, a great deal of it, came in those $800 packages in the U.S. that were exempt from customs for a long time. They are not exempt now, but there was the $800 package that you could get exempted from customs if it was $800 or less. A lot of the fentanyl came into the States that way. Oddly enough, the precursor drugs would come into the States. Those precursor drugs would then be shipped to Mexico, where the fentanyl was made, and then shipped back into the United States.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. The Niagara Region's got tough budget decision time coming up, right? So, yes, we all know that publicly they approved a 3.5% target rate for 2026 budget process. However, based upon the staff, we're talking about at least 10%.
Yeah, they can't do it. They can't even come close. So they had a 9.99% increase recommended by staff. Council, like, they wanted the guidelines of 3.5%, no more. You're going to get somewhere in the middle. And in order to do that, they're going to have to delay infrastructure. They're going to have to delay infrastructure projects, capital projects. And as Redikoff said in the article, that's about the only place you can cut, because you can't, any other place, you're going to be cutting services.
Yeah. I think that was actually part of the original motion that was set, 6 months ago, was to, actually longer than 6 months ago, back in April or May, wasn't it? Part of the original budget motion was to actually set people thinking, right? And it wasn't with the intention that we would only approve a 3.5% budget, but it was to actually get people's mind at play and actually, if you had 3.5%, at least then you'd get like the police chief thinking about a 3.5% increase, the fire chief thinking about a 3.5% increase, et cetera, across the board. Except that hasn't happened, of course.
No, it hasn't. And the regional police got exactly what they want, nearly exactly what they wanted. The council was not able to hold them back or find efficiencies at all. We found that a lot of it had to do with legacy costs of pensions and all kinds of other things. That 90% of the increases had to do not with new stuff.
With legacy.
So we are sort of shackled with this. It is now on the region. They cannot find ways out of spending money without cutting something. Obviously, they have to cut something. And they're talking about cutting infrastructure, delaying it, deferring it some more. But the problem with that is the longer you defer it, the more expensive it becomes down the road.
Yeah.
If you defer your water lines, wastewater and water line sewers and water lines of that kind, if you defer them, then you're going to get bursts. You're going to have more and more emergency type of cost where lines burst and you got to dig it out and put a Band-Aid on it until you can get to it later.
Yeah. And that's a big problem. We're looking at roads, bridges, water systems already facing major backlogs, but those backlogs are going to be even more. And worse, capital projects could stall a number of investments that would bring our infrastructure up to date.
Yeah, so the wastewater thing is a big deal. They kicked it down the road for very, very long, and this is what politicians do. guess what? We're going to keep the taxes down. So how are we going to do that? Well, we won't work on our wastewater stuff.
But again,
we'll put another Band-Aid on the wastewater, and they keep doing that year after year. Suddenly it becomes an urgent matter. You're going to have to do something about it, and you have to spend it. And now you're trying to tell your constituents, look, we got to raise your taxes because all these water systems are failing desperately. And you look back at them and say, why did they get so bad? How come you let it get that bad? But those things got bad over years and over political administrations. Yeah, that is the consequence of kicking things too far down the road.
And a lot of that, if what you're saying is, well, it got bad 20 years ago and we've done nothing about it, that's a serious problem.
And you damn well know that there has been retired city engineers and planners and everything that saw this problem coming years and years ago and made recommendations to do something about it. Yeah. But when it came into the budget, and every politician wants to keep the taxes low at that particular time, say, okay, well, we'll defer that. We'll defer that to later, Well, those politicians that made that decision 20 years ago, who are no longer sitting on council, now drop this albatross onto the council of today.
Yeah.
And what is the council of today going to do? The demands from the residents is, come on, things are tough out here. Why are you raising our taxes as much as you are? 7, 8, 9% in the last 3 years consecutive. Or why are you killing us this way? We can't take another 10%, or what are you doing? And they're saying, well, we got it because our infrastructure is old. Our water and wastewater is old. All that stuff has been kicked down the road. And now we got to do something about it. And you got to pay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think with the majority of people being asking the question right now, what's the chance that we get less than a 10% hike on our regional taxes? And I think most people's answer to that is a big fat zero, isn't it?
Yes. Well, anyway, it says council's approved the motion last week that we reduce the water and wastewater budget rate to increase to 7.42%. That's twice what the recommended 3.5 was, or the attempt to try to get there. And and then it has this chart where it says an increasing portion Niagara Region assets are reaching the end of their life. There's the chart there where the assets like roads, sewers, et cetera, are reaching the end of their life. And why are they reaching their end of the life all of a sudden? Because of planning. Planning has not been there. So now you get politicians, really, and of course they're trying to save money, but they're not exactly the greatest of planners. We'll keep your taxes down now, but full well knowing the planners are saying you cannot keep not fixing this road and not fixing this bridge until now. You have to.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's responsible planning, basically. But anyway,
and again,
how do you do that when politicians need to tell their constituents, I'm not going to raise your taxes? Now they have to raise them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And so some tough decisions upcoming.
Yeah, there's all kinds of we've talked about this a number of times in the last few weeks about how the region is going to do what they're going to do. Like, they can't seem to get away. They're just going to have to defer, and that's exactly what they're talking about here, is deferring more. Now they're talking about the decision would reduce the property tax increase next year to 6.8% from the 9.9% they originally wanted. They knew they weren't going to get away with 9.9%. I think 6.8%, they're going to, seriously, it was 9%, 7%, and 7.5%, 2025, 24, and 23. And now they say they're going to put a 6.8%. It really should be around 3.5% every year if you can get it that way. But they're not going to be able to get it that way. The only way they're going to be able to do that is borrow enormous amounts of money, get the infrastructure up to a level that's acceptable, and then thereafter the increases in taxes would have to be smaller. But the fact of the matter is, as they're saying here, the only way they're going to be able to reduce or keep taxes down without affecting services is to back off on some of their infrastructure.
Yeah.
Which only kicks it down the road.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so we come up with this as well then. Okay, so it's Honda, isn't it, that are seeking heavy industrial rezoning for their Port Colborne site. They're looking at getting 14 hectares of land along Highway 140 converted to heavy industrial use as part of a power station, high voltage electricity substation, which will help with the with their energy requirements to actually build these
Asahi Kasei.
Yeah,
that's Japanese outfit.
Yeah, I believe that's Honda.
It might be combined with Honda.
Yeah,
it might be combined with Honda, but it might be the company that works for their separators. Now, the separator thing, of course, is and they got a poly
separator, plant. Yeah.
It's a separator plant. So it there's this very thin separator that between the anode and the cathode of the battery that separates the anode and cathode from becoming a short circuit.
Yeah,
but it is a specialized material to do that. And now what they want to do for this 14 hectare industrial site they find that part of it is not zoned heavy industrial. So what they want to do is get the whole 14 hectares zoned heavy industrial.
Properly zoned. But again, that would allow them to build what they need, the battery separator plant, to come up to full capacity. And the point about this is that we've been speculating for basically 11 months now about the use of electric vehicles and the decline in electric vehicles because of Trump's anti-electric vehicle mandate.
I don't think there's been a decline in electric vehicles, but it certainly has leveled off. Yeah. There's been a slowdown in purchasing of electrical vehicles.
Yeah,
a slowdown. And it's not like if they were selling, 5 per 100,000 or 5 per 10,000. Now they're down to like 4 per 10,000 or something like that. You don't see any charging stations being taken off the map either. You will at least this particular company sees that eventually you're going to go with electric cars, and that's just all it is to it. And they've gone ahead with this, and they're pursuing that.
I think we will as well, because most people are calling for it.
Yeah, and it's just a better use of energy. It's a more efficient use of energy. You've got a battery and you got a motor, basically, where an automobile, you have a tank and you have a cooling system and an explosion system, and you have a big engine that you carry around with you everywhere you go. So it's not exactly the most efficient use of energy, whereas a battery-driven car is much more efficient use of energy.
Well, yeah, but again, electric cars electric cars are not without their problems. We saw something the other day. There was a huge storm somewhere, I forget where, and there was basically people kept their engines on during the storm to keep the heating in the car because they were trapped. And of course, when the tow trucks came to move them on, they had to with the gas cars, all they needed to do was fill the car up. With the electric car, they had to tow it away because there was no charge left in it.
Well, like you could run out of gas too, but the whole thing.
But you run out of gas, you can put a can of gas in there and get you to the next gas station, right?
Yeah. So you don't have a mobile charger. That may change in time. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, those are unusual situations.
Oh, they are. That is absolutely.
It's more likely that electric cars in the far north will not become too popular too soon, because the performance goes down during the very, very cold days. But in those northern communities, they plug in their block heaters anywhere. Anytime they come to a bar or a restaurant, you go way up north, and then there's outlets everywhere for them to plug into their block heaters.
Yeah.
So you might want to just plug into your charger. That kind of thing. So the basically, we will probably see electric cars coming soon, because definitely hybrids, which require these batteries too. The hybrids require the batteries too. So
I would actually say, you see, I'm actually one that I more favor hybrids right now, because I think if my car had been available in a hybrid, I probably couldn't afford it. But it would be nice to think that if it had been available in a hybrid, my gas consumption would be a heck of a lot, probably halved.
Yes, the stuff they make there, I'm going to look it up right now. It's pretty interesting, and I'm not so sure. I don't know if it's a polluting kind of thing. It probably is. Everything is. And
there's going to be some form of pollutants on it, but it is if it's taken care of properly, then I think the main situation here is they're looking at a high voltage electric substation.
So polyolefin is a versatile, inexpensive plastic polymer made from simple olefins like ethylene and propylene, forming the basis for common plastics like polyethylene and polypropylene, used in everything from packaging and auto parts to textiles, known for being lightweight, durable, chemical resistant, and easy to process. So that's what they're making there. That's what they're doing. The separators are these things that separate the anode from the cathode in a car battery.
Yeah. And actually, that technology is not exactly new technology. It's been around forever, hasn't it?
Yes.
So generally, with older technology, there's usually less risk.
And here's the challenges, basically. Recycling challenges. Mixed polyolefin waste with impurities can be hard to recycle mechanically. Through chemical recycling offers solutions. BPA free, generally considered safe plastic for food content. So there are some issues, but it doesn't seem to be big, but we'll probably find more as time moves on.
Yeah. All right. Okay. This was a disturbing story that you gave us. So City of Thorold put a stop to a Muslim burial hours before it was due to happen. And I'm saddened by this, because is it a case of them not understanding the needs of the family?
Well, they have the Muslim community has added money to the Thorold cemetery. They're looking, just like the Catholics have their own particular portion of.
It's fairly typical. It's fairly typical in most municipal cemeteries that you have areas that are for one religion or another.
Yeah, usually when you have a community graveyard, you have your Catholic sections. You might have your Jewish section. You may have a Jewish section. You may not. You may have a and of course now you may have a Buddhist section, you may have a whatever, and those are usually devoted for those purposes. Everyone else is a public burial, like who doesn't really care about that will just go wherever they want to go. But there are some people who have religious duties. Now, in the Muslim faith and in the Jewish faith, I often say that Judaism and Islam are much more closely aligned than Christianity and Judaism.
It is, that's for sure. I agree.
They're very much the closer aligned than of the three Abrahamic faiths. Those two are much tighter than Christianity is with either one of the others. And one of the things they have to do in the Islamic faith is to bury the body as soon as they can. They have about a few days to do that.
Well, actually, you bury the generally with most Muslims, it is you bury it on the day of the death,
if you can. But
if you can. Obviously,
most imams will give you, and that's usually if you can. And most imams will give you a variety of options. But let's make it clear it should be buried very soon after death.
Yeah, and this situation, the girl who's a Brock University student tragically died on a crash on the 406, and was struck by a hit-and-run driver. So clearly, the police would have held the body for at least a couple of days while they did their investigation. But again, fulfilling the requirement to get the burial done as soon as possible. And then sadly, unfortunately, there's a bylaw in Thorold that gets in the way.
Yeah, well, they gave them approval. They gave them approval to bury their daughter in Thorold, and then come along at the 11th hour and say, "Hey, no, sorry, you can't bury it here. But you can't bury it over there." And they say, "Well, that isn't suitable for our religion. This you said we could bury it here, there with Muslim customs, and now you're saying no." And so they had a phone around, and Niagara Falls came to the rescue, brought out people to dig a grave, presumably on the weekend. They accommodated them in Niagara Falls, but Thorold messed up huge on this one. Yeah. And they said, "Oh, well, to them it was, well, we can't let you bury it here. You got to bury it over there." Yeah. Seriously, when you have when the Muslim communities put money into the cemetery to make sure that they have a portion of it that's suitable to them. Yeah. Just like there's a Catholic section.
And the worst about this is it's mistreating a girl who's so tragically died.
Yeah, they're dumping this on them then, and I don't know, they messed up huge on this.
And I have to applaud the city of Niagara Falls for stepping up on this issue, right? And I have serious questions about the city of Thorold, and have to say, I have to ask the question: racist or what?
I'm not so sure. They might have pulled the same stunt on a Jewish family. Who knows? They may have, because the Jewish family will have to bring their people in very quickly as well. Their customs are the same to bury them quickly. Yeah, and that may have happened to a Jewish outfit. So to maybe a Buddhist outfit. Who knows? I don't know if it's a whole lot to do with racism or everything. I think it has more to do with misunderstanding and ignorance. On behalf
I'm hoping it is, but it always concerns me when I see things like this.
I think there was some mess up, and somebody says, "Hey, wait a minute, we're not supposed to bury people there. We can bury them here, but you can't bury them there." Yeah, and for some reason, and they're worried about Thorold was worried about being fair to everyone, about getting a plot where they had planned to put them, basically. Mm-hmm. And despite the fact that the Muslim community had worked with the city of Thorold, the cemetery, obviously they're not listening. And I've pointed this out before when I was in Sobeys one time. They had meat packaged pork with halal signs. Somebody the sign was halal, but it had a big open space, so the people who were using the little stick type signs with a sign on them, and they were halal, and yet they were put there on the pork because the employees just thought it was just a sign like any other sign. No one had told them that it was a halal sign. And what you're doing there is you're telling Muslims that this piece of pork is halal. This is the same thing as you put it,
which is never which for either Jews or Muslims, pork can never be halal or kosher.
Exactly.
You know. Okay. Rick makes a point of if she wore a seatbelt, she would be alive today. I'm not so sure that. Not so sure whether that is the case. You know, there was an accident and she was struck, and she was subsequently struck. I don't know.
She got thrown out of her vehicle on the initial accident, and then she got run over by a hit and runner. The guy just took off, or whoever it was took off after they hit them. If she was thrown out of her vehicle, she probably did not have her seatbelt on properly. We don't know that completely, but yeah, definitely always wear your seatbelt, because I don't know, man. I know it saved my life, I think, when I was in an accident.
Yeah. All right. And I do agree, but again, there are certain times I don't know why she was out of the vehicle, but there were certain times you have to get out of the vehicle.
She was thrown out of her vehicle.
Oh, she was thrown out. All right.
That's why they said that if she had her seatbelt on, it probably wouldn't have happened. But it's a tragedy anyway.
Yeah.
It was a hit and run.
I'm less concerned about the accident. I'm more concerned about the burial situation here, and that's what bothers me with this.
Yeah. So that's a completely different argument.
Yeah, that's a different situation entirely.
Yeah. The problem here is they did not. And as I said too, they would have probably found themselves in the same pickle if a Jewish family had found their daughter being killed in an accident, and they want to bury it in a very fast way that Orthodox Jews anyway. I don't know about secular Jews, but
there's a lot of Jews that do follow the same thing about, particularly on burials. You want to get them buried as soon as possible.
Yeah, they have that common law. That the body has to be cured, and usually in Muslim lore, it should be a very very humble burial. Even the sheiks or the leaders of the Saudi Arabian government, when they die, the top man will go to a very, very humble burial very soon after death.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is at the point of death, you're the same as everyone else, despite whatever wealth you had during your lifetime.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move on to a story we've covered before. It's not going to go away. Ontario cities are battling. We got a massive doctor shortage across Ontario, and Ontario cities are battling for family doctors. And for example, Niagara Falls is offering $100,000 to a signing bonus for physicians who open a new practice in the city. But this is not uncommon. This is happening everywhere.
Yeah, now we have this, and we've talked about this several times on this show.
Yeah, we have.
That enticing doctors into the area. Niagara Falls will put up $100,000 for any new doctor that wants to set up practice here. But right next door in St. Catharines, they balk at that, and they'll only give them $5,000. But if you go up to Huntsville, you'll get $80,000 for anything like this. So there is this competition with doctors all over the place. There are many, like the City of London mayor, think this is a terrible thing to do and has tried to resist it.
Yeah.
The Auditor General has come in and said that the doctor servicing that Ontario has done and the slow way in which it has brought in doctors and affirmed doctors.
About it being messy and unfair. Yeah, complete mess is what the Auditor General is saying. An unfair, because it's making life very difficult unless you put up that bounty, right? As far as I know, the Niagara Falls bounty is the biggest.
Yes, unfortunately, it's not working well for Ontario at this particular moment. We have thousands of people without a family doctor. It's like almost unthinkable if you go back to our childhood, or even as young adults. If I'm 30 years old, someone would tell me, well, so, you may not have a family doctor going forward. I would think that's preposterous. I had a family doctor all my life. My parents had a family doctor. Everybody had a family doctor, right? Now you're telling us we're not going to have a family doctor. What went wrong?
Yeah.
Is it the explosion of immigration that we talk about that
in part because we've grown the population too quickly.
That's part of it. Bureaucratic bungling is the next part. When you bring in a huge amount of population, but you do not plan ahead for the health requirements of that population, that's called bureaucratic bungling.
Yep.
And as we said here about the regional budget, someone long ago said, "Hey, wait a minute! If you don't fix that water, the water plant, the sewage plant, hey, you know what? You're gonna cost somebody down the road a lot of money." And that's somebody has been telling the government all along that we're not going to have enough doctors, we're not going to have enough health care for them. Yeah. Somebody also has been telling them, look, what are you doing? We won't have enough houses for them.
Yeah.
You got to meter it in within the ability to meet the needs.
And it's ridiculous that that you're getting immigrants who, you've got local people who can't afford to housing. You've got immigrants coming in who also can't afford housing. We've got a homelessness crisis, and we're melding this whole lot together. And it's a nightmare right now for Canada.
So now we have, because there's a limited amount of doctors, we're outbidding each other for doctors. Yeah. That's a horrible situation.
Yeah.
Really. I can understand the northern community saying, look, we need doctors so bad, and people are unlikely to want to come up here. So what we'll do is we'll help you with your bills. We'll help you with setting up your doctor's office and all that other things. We'll even give you housing for 5 years or whatever you need to get yourself well established up here. Because you're less likely to want to go all the way up north than some of the communities up there. I'm sure once you're established there, you'd be fine with it because, but the idea is to lure you up there in the first place.
Yeah, and once you get up there, probably the life is quite good, right? But it's getting there. You kind of go, well, it's a million miles from anywhere, and if I need supplies, they have to be shipped in once a year.
Yes, and I don't know. I don't think it's such a good idea. And now we have this competitive thing going on. So communities of more humble means, particularly northern communities, but even rural communities of more humble means, how are they going to dangle the carrot?
Yeah,
to get the doctors into their area. We've got somebody like Niagara Falls saying, "Hey, you're going to go to that rural community up north, but how about coming to Niagara Falls instead, and we'll give you $100,000."
Yeah,
is that even fair?
Well, and I get where people questioning the fairness of it, but again, I also understand why Niagara Falls is saying, "Hey, come here. We'll give you some money to come here."
Well, sure, the Niagara Falls Council has probably approved this, or and said, "Look, we have to look after our own people, and how are we going to do that?" Well, we've got money, we can give them, we can buy them, we can buy their love. Come on, we got love for you. It's
again, I would have to say that if I was sitting on the council floor, I'm not sure how I would vote on this particular issue, Dave.
Well, I'm not so sure either. I
Yeah.
think it's rather unethical to do that, but if other communities are doing it, then we have to do it.
Yeah, I know. And that's probably the one thing that would, that's probably the one argument that would sway me in favor of voting for the, for the offer.
Yeah, but at the same time, I would like the province or regulatory body to come in and say, hey, don't do that anymore. That's against the rules.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, if someone else is doing it, we got to do it. We see that St. Catharines has resisted that. They'll only give $5,000. London has resisted completely. Other communities in London, but London doesn't have to worry too much because they're not going to have a whole lot of problem attracting doctors there because they have research facilities, they have medical facilities at the universities and all that. So they're a little bit of an advantage anyway, So I don't know. I think it's.
Well, Rick is saying the part of the problem is nobody wants to be a family doctor. They're going where the money is, which is specialty surgery. And I suppose in part that I can't deny that, Rick, because in fact, you think about it, the family doctor situation is that the surgery versus family doctor is two different areas. Family doctor is Mr. Stable gets so many patients a day come in every day of the year, every year of their lifetime, and they can stay there doing that until whenever they decide to retire. But maybe that isn't the sexy thing, because the sexy thing is being a surgeon, is cutting, is heart surgery or knee surgery or something like that. But there has to be room in the doctor world for both.
Yeah, but basically what they're talking about here is just an ordinary GP.
Yeah, of course.
To do the preliminary stuff, the family doctor.
Yeah, the family doctor. The initial diagnostic person who diagnoses you initially. You come there with your aching knee, and they say to you, well, you have a knee problem, maybe you need your knee, your knee replaced.
Well, they'll do the initial diagnosis, and they'll take the initial x-rays, and then they'll form an opinion. This is just a bruise. This is a chipped kneecap or something like that. This will heal. Or they'll just say, no, this is bad. It has to have some sort of surgery done on it.
Yep.
So they'll do the initial stuff, which is very important.
Yeah, but again, if you're a person who wants to do knee surgery, you don't want to be diagnosing it. You want to do the knee surgery, don't you?
Yeah, anyway. I'm not going to knock on a cardiovascular specialist and say, hey, I think I need a new heart. And they'll say, why do you think so? Because I get heart flutter, so I need a new one. Can you give me a new one? No, you're going to have to go to your family doctor.
Of course you are.
Do all the preliminary stuff first.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're going to have to call it quits at that, I think.
Yes. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. I see that there may be some progress in Gaza, but I will mention Gaza every day. We should be also mentioning Darfur, what's happening there with the RSF, aka Janjaweed. The Janjaweed are just the RSF is just the Janjaweed in different clothes, basically. The slaughters and the destruction is incredible there, and it gets lost. It gets lost for the fact that there was this brutish war in Gaza, this a result of years and years of oppression and back and forth violence between two ethnic groups. And then we have, of course, the Ukrainian war, which seems to be hard to solve.
When is that going to finish?
Yeah, but that takes our glance away from
of course,
some of the most brutal wars in history happening in the Sudan and South Sudan.
Yeah. All right. And Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace.